This month marks 2 decades since Rwanda's 1994 genocide. The 100-day rampage saw ethnic Hutu militias kill 800,000 people, most of them Tutsis, but some moderate Hutus.
On April 7th, the 20th anniversary of the day the violence broke out, Rwandans came together for a ceremony to reflect on the atrocities.
VOA East Africa correspondent Gabe Joselow was in Rwanda for the anniversary, and he talked with me about what he saw. Let's go ahead and start with a clip of his report on the commemoration.
Cries and wails erupted in the crowd throughout the ceremony as some became overwhelmed with emotion. African heads of state and foreign dignitaries gathered for the memorial, but a French delegation was notably absent, having withdrawn in protest over Mr. Kagame's recent remarks accusing France of involvement in the genocide.
This image of this woman wailing in response at the commemoration event, how does that reflect the mood currently in Rwanda about this piece of the country's history?
Yeah, I think the genocide, rightfully so, has caused a lot of trauma in the country. I mean, it was a devastating event that killed more than 800,000 people and divided the country and really, just tore the place apart. So there's a lot of, just lingering wounds and emotion left over from that time. So what we saw at the commemoration event, as a victim was telling his testimony and recounting what happened to him 20 years ago, a lot of people in the crowd just sort of lost it. You heard these wails go up and people were crying and really becoming so overwhelmed with emotion they had to be carried out of the stadium.
So are there still strong ethnic divisions?
It's a hard question to answer because for a long time it wasn't something that people really wanted to talk about. This was such an ugly and dark chapter in Rwanda's history that it seemed the policy for many years was to not discuss ethnicity, like we were just going to get rid of these tribal and ethnic divisions. No more Hutus, no more Tutsis. In the last few years or so, we've seen some initiatives, though, that more directly take on the issue in a public way.
Many of these young people in Rwanda weren't alive when it happened. They're finding out about it. So what's their take on the genocide and on these efforts to recover from it?
Despite the fact that a lot of them weren't old enough or weren't even born at a time when the genocide was taking place to really have experienced it or experienced it directly, a lot of them feel a very strong connection. This was like a very significant part of the country's recent history, and a lot of them did have family members or have heard family stories about survival during that time. So there's a very strong desire among a lot of the young people I spoke to connect to what happened.
Another aspect of your reporting, Gabe, was this bitterness that's felt among Rwandans against the international community. What's the basis of that?
Well, there was a lot of attention paid at this commemoration to some of the failures of the United Nations peacekeeping force that was in Rwanda at the time to act to stop the genocide, despite the fact that they had some warnings that something of that scale could take place. And that Hutu militias were being armed. And so what we saw is the United Nations Secretary General actually issued something of an apology for the UN's action, saying that they could have and should have done more.
Rwanda tends to be defined by this event. So having been there, if you were to talk to someone and they were to ask you, what's Rwanda like? What would you tell them? How would you describe it?
The development there is just amazing, and the ease of getting around and doing business, and just basically just the ease of life there, and how orderly and how secure and how safe it is like no other place in the region, as far as I can tell. So working there was actually pretty easy. At the same time, though, because of some concerns about people are a little afraid to express themselves. There's a little bit, the government is a bit overbearing. There's some controls on the media and controls on civil society. So it's not a place that embraces free speech the way somewhere like Nairobi, where I am now, does. So in Nairobi, everybody has an opinion and they're very willing to share it. Whereas in Rwanda, it's a little bit difficult to get people to open up. And I don't think the amount of time I spent there was quite enough to really connect with people and get behind or underneath the surface of what you see with these clean streets and this high-tech, the city that has developed quite rapidly.
And that was Gabe Joselow, VOA East Africa correspondent based in Kenya. Thank you so much, Gabe.